We send them out of the digital world. We send them out of their home. We push them to go and have a fantastic experience across the globe, to meet, let's say, local communities, to really understand others in a deeper way. And also the possibility to meet new people, to create new friends, maybe a new partner, maybe one day it can be a new, let's say, business partner, really to make people feel that even, let's say, traveling on your own is nothing weird, right? It's because I think for some time this group travel was a bit seen as something a bit weird. So let's say if people were going in a group on their own, was seen like maybe you don't have friends. What's wrong there? Whereas I think it's just fantastic. I mean, you travel on your own and then you meet other people who are, let's say, like-minded. They are in the same situation. They share the same attitude. That I think it's really improving people's lives. Also is what we get from, let's say, from the feedback, right?
Welcome to the Strategy at Scale podcast, brought to you by Scaling Up and Outthinker. I'm your host, Kayan Krippendorf. Our mission here is to cut through a sea of conflicting business advice and get to what actually works. We talk to entrepreneurs and business builders who've successfully scaled companies across industries to extract proven, high-impact strategies for building long-term value. You just heard from Andrea D'Amico. He's the CEO of WeRoad, one of the fastest growing travel companies in Europe. Andrea spent nearly 2 decades at Booking.com, where he helped scale the business from a 100-person startup into a 20,000-person global giant, eventually serving as vice president and managing director for the Middle East, Africa, and Russia, leading large teams and navigating complex regional strategies. After steering through the turbulence of COVID, including the difficult decision to resize his team, Andrea stepped back. He paused and asked himself a powerful question. What do I actually want to build next? And where do I want to apply everything that I've learned? What he discovered was that he thrives in the early stage of building, shaping the model, assembling the team, and laying the foundations for scale. That clarity led him to WeRoad. What began as an advisory role quickly became a full-time mission. Today, Andrea is scaling WeRoad into a pan-European community for modern adventure seekers, solo travelers who don't want to travel alone, who crave meaning, connection, and shared experiences. WeRoad has now brought more than 300,000 travelers to over 125 destinations, offering around 1,000 itineraries created and rated by thousands of coordinators. The company has grown from about 10 million euros to 100 million euros in revenue in just 3 years, at roughly 50% year-over-year growth. With offices in Milan, London, Madrid, Paris, and Berlin, WeRoad is becoming the go-to platform for fantastic experiences, whether on the other side of the world or just around the corner, while staying deeply rooted in local language, local teams, and local communities. In this episode, we explore how companies build models that scale, not just grow, and the strategic choices that make the difference. Why community can evolve into a powerful competitive advantage, and what it takes to nurture it at scale. How leaders decide where complexity is worth embracing to unlock long-term opportunity. What to consider when bringing in outside capital beyond valuation or speed to stay aligned with your strategy and culture. How digital, operational, and organizational decisions compound over time to create momentum in a scaling business. Whether you're designing a product, building a team, or expanding into new markets, this conversation brings together the human and the strategic, offering a rare look at how connection, culture, and disciplined scaling come together in a fast-growing company. Let's dive in with Andrea. Andrea, thank you so much for being here with us. It is great to meet you. I think that what I'm particularly excited about is that you have this entrepreneurial and then corporate career and then entrepreneurial career, so you can really bring this understanding of kind of both sides. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you.
Where are you joining us from?
From Milan. This is where we have our headquarters.
Gotcha. Excellent. I was in Milan a couple of months ago. And it's a great city. I love it.
I love
It's
it.
that combination of corporate big company, and yet you have all the fashion and the arts, and so it's a very nice
So
combination.
I'm not into fashion, and I mean the good thing is that I'm originally from Rome, and so I commute every week. So I really get the best of the two cities. Right over the weekend in Rome, chill. During the week, Milan, which for business is really a step ahead compared to Rome. So I really enjoy having these two lives.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's what I love about, in the United States, when we go to Europe, it is always impressive for us how close things are. Like I was in Geneva and I was able to, in a 3-hour bus ride, go from Geneva to Milan. And culturally, it's an entirely different experience. And yet geographically so close, which is unusual to people from the United States. Which brings us to this exploration of new cultures and travel. First, if you don't mind, I've already given a little bit of background on you, but just kind of talk to us about how you went from your entrepreneurial career to Booking.com, and tell us about how you discovered WeRoad as an advisor, and what was it that you saw that made you commit to helping grow the company?
So before WeRoad, as you mentioned, I worked for like 18 years at Booking.com, different roles, different regions. The last 3 years I was managing director for all EMEA, so I had quite a big team across the region. Then COVID came, I had to resize the team. It was quite a tough decision to take. And at that point, I really thought that after, let's say, so many years in the same industry, in the same company, I felt that I was a bit too much in my comfort zone, right? So I had quite a lot of experience also in this international scale up at Booking, because when I joined, we were like 100 people, and then at some point we were like 2,000, 20,000. And then I thought that basically I was not really using a lot of that experience anymore. So I decided to take a sabbatical, because basically I worked for, let's say, 18 years at Booking without any stop. I took like parental leave because Booking.com was giving that option. And during that year, I got in touch through mutual connections with the guys at WeRoad. And we started talking, and because I was free, I started, let's say, supporting them as an advisor for the international scale up. And we really thought that it was a great match, right? So WeRoad had a very bright and great founder who is Paolo Di Nadai. He's a kind of serial entrepreneur. Of course, he's a visionary. He has the fire, right, of the entrepreneur, but he didn't have a lot of experience in scaling things up, especially internationally. And basically, this is what I was very experienced about. So we really saw that was a great match. So after my time as an advisor, also at the end of my sabbatical, we really, they asked me to stay as a CEO, and I was very eager to make that jump, because I wanted to really to make use of my experience. So I wanted to go back to, let's say, a company was at the stage Booking.com had when I joined. It's also I think the most fun, challenging, interesting moment, right? When every single day you take decisions that can make or break the success of the company. So you really have, let's say, different vibes. I was very impressed with the team, fantastic, driven, talented people. And also what WeRoad does is incredible. So I would have not gone to a copycat of Booking, but of course, Booking.com in hospitality is the number one worldwide. So if you work there, it doesn't make sense to go to another one. But still, I wanted to be in travel with a tech component, and WeRoad is doing something that is completely different from. So let's say a strong component is not only about the trip, the travel, but it's also about creating connections, bringing people together. And I think when I joined, it was just after COVID, and I think it's also when we really realized as a society that those human connections cannot be taken for granted, say, anymore. So a lot of people were really looking for opportunities to connect again. And I think even when things return to normality, I see also the way we work, the way we live also change a bit, right? So whereas before COVID, it was quite normal to get out of your home every single day and meet colleagues, go out for lunch and drinks. I think after COVID became quite normal to either work remote or a hybrid. So also to really get in touch with people in real life became less and less. And I think this feeling of loneliness, this feeling of I really want to to find ways to meet, let's say, to meet new people became even more important. I think it's also behind the growth and the success that we had.
Yeah. So many places to go there. What I kind of want to kind of guide the conversation in, and kind of the theory of this podcast is that there are kind of like four realizations, right? One is this is an opportunity in the market. The second is we are the right people to pursue this opportunity. Then there is we can pull together the operations to provide that unique advantage to pursue the opportunity. And then there is the investment side, and what do we do with the profits? So here's what I've heard on the first part, which is you're sitting there and you're like, this is an opportunity. What I'm hearing is you personally want to do something in travel and tech, that there is this desire post-COVID for this connection. There probably is like technology that allows more kind of community kind of stuff. I'm hearing a little bit of Airbnb, and that, it's about community and experience as opposed to a place to stay or, kind of something to do. I'm hearing a little bit of, I don't know if you do this brand Afar, they're a travel magazine, right? I'm hearing get off the bus, get out into experience something new. Just talk to me about, like, if you were to come up with, you probably have a formula in your head that says, of the hundreds of things that I could pursue, this one checks a lot of boxes that makes me think, yes, this is something I'm going to commit myself to. But what do you think that checklist is?
I would say improving, people's life. That I think is very important. So I feel like WeRoad is really making people's life better, right? Because we send them out of the digital world, we send them out of their home, we push them to go and have a fantastic experience across the globe, to meet, let's say, local communities, to really understand others in a more in a deeper way. And also the possibility to meet new people, to create new friends, maybe a new partner, maybe one day it can be a new, let's say, business partner, really to make people feel that even, let's say, traveling on your own is nothing weird, right? It's because I think for some time this group travel was a bit seen as something a bit weird. So let's say people were going in a group on their own, was seen like maybe you don't have friends. What's wrong there? Whereas I think it's just fantastic. I mean, you travel on your own, and then you meet other people who are, let's say, like-minded. They are in the same situation. They share with the same, let's say, with the same attitude. That I think it's really improving people's lives. And also is what we get from, let's say, from the feedback, right? It's not just providing a commodity, a service, which really a lot into the emotional part of people.
Great. So I can see, that you sense that there's this kind of socio-demographic shift that makes people, want to connect, to meet other people. So I can see the demand side, but what do you see on the business side as well? Like, because I think a lot of people would like diamond rings, and I could get into the business of giving them diamond rings, but is there a business there? What do you see about, like, is it a profitable space? Or do the market dynamics indicate that this is something, because you're a financially driven also entrepreneur? What are the other indicators that tell you? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they get excited, right? They like, I have this need. There are other people who have this need. I want to serve this need. But there are a lot of businesses that are just, they're just not like financially viable.
We are not a not-profit company, right? Of course, we on one side we do. It's very nice to do something great for people who improves their life. On the other side, should be financially sustainable, right? So definitely there is business there, because there is, I think, great appetite. Because I think now, especially people in our core segment, which I would say is like young professionals in their early 30s, without big commitments, without, let's say, without family, now are more and more focusing on allocating more and more on their spend on experiences versus buying a house or buying a car, right? So it's more important for them. So definitely there are people who are willing to to spend. It's just not, let's say, a kind of an optional spend anymore, right? So it's like, I want to have fun, to meet new people, to have fantastic experience. So there is definitely business there. There is a lot of demand. In the other part, there's also giving us a sense that busy is also financially viable, is the fact that we have very high satisfaction scores. So basically, we always ask customers to score their experience, and is around, let's say, a 9 out of 10. So that's why there are many people who come back, right? So let's say, going a bit more on the business side, of course, what is our main challenge, what is our main spend is, of course, when you open a market and people don't know about you or they're not familiar with the concept, you need to spend some money in order for people to get to know WeRoad, to get to know what we do. But the great thing is that once we convince them to try it once, they will come back themselves. They will speak to their friends. They will post pictures or videos on Instagram. I think it's very Instagram what we do, and then I think all the flywheel start. So let's say overall, let's say as a group today, we are not profitable, but we are profitable in our first market, which is Italy. So Italy is profitable for a couple of years. Simply the reason why we are not profitable overall is that after Italy, we opened Spain and then France and then Germany and UK. Then we extended to the rest of Europe. And of course, when you open these big markets, as I mentioned, there are some investments that you need to make. And you know that basically in the medium, long run, there will be a return. Basically, it will be worth it.
So you mentioned the term flywheel. What is your flywheel?
Yeah, so flywheel, basically, there are people who are coming in, they experience WeRoad for the first time. Some of them will also become coordinators because, let's say, a component of our model is that every group goes with a travel coordinator. They are not professional guides. So let's say in every trip, if it's needed, there is also a guide. So for example, I went to Nepal and we did the trekking on, and of course it was a professional guide there, it was not a coordinator. But let's say overall, you always travel with a coordinator who is someone, is not an employee, is someone who just likes to travel, let's say, in that way, to travel with like-minded people. It's just that they have some leadership skills and they want to take that, let's say, responsibility. So they apply to us, we select them, we train them, and then they can decide themselves basically which places to go. And usually they go to places where they've never been, of course. So that is the
coordinators go to places they've never been before.
Correct.
Interesting. I thought the coordinators were going to be a Nepalese person who knows all the mountains.
No, when I went to Nepal, the coordinator was Italian. And then, of course, we had also the local guides who were, let's say, the expert. But let's say the coordinator is like, when you travel with a group of friends, there is always your one friend that will always make some preparation.
Researches everything.
And who knows everything. He comes
I love that.
And then it's also the person that during the trip, if something is happening, they will be the one speaking the phone. Or if, let's say, you are on a beach and it's a rainy day, they will be the one say, okay, guys, let's try to do something. It's really because that, let's say, that human part is very important for us. We want to have someone that is really looking to the part. Because of course, let's say in our groups we have, let's say, 10, 15 people who don't know each other, at least at the beginning. Of course, that you might have someone who's a bit more shy, a bit more reserved. So I think it's important that the coordinator makes sure that everyone is in the, let's say, right mood, feels good. So basically the deal with the coordinator is that they don't pay anything. So we pay everything for them, including the flights. On the other side, we ask them to be that friend, very prepared friend that, let's say, everyone has when they travel.
I love that. Yeah, you're bringing in a character who has been on every family trip or any group trip that you've been on, but you're bringing them in kind of formally.
And for us,
interesting.
For us, it's very important because basically they represent WeRoad's face, WeRoad's mood, WeRoad character. So for us, they're really kind of brand.
Okay, great. So this is the second part of the prep. So we have people come in, then some of them are coordinators, and just can complete the flywheel for us.
Yeah, some will become coordinators. Some of these coordinators will become travel producers. So now, let's say, started a couple of years ago. We are giving the coordinators also the possibility to create itineraries themselves. So there are coordinators who cannot be bothered. They have the job and they say, I just wait for itineraries that are made by someone else or made by WeRoad team, and I will just choose one of those. But there are also people who say, I always wanted to go to Svalbard Islands. There is no itinerary. You know what? I'm going to do it myself. So they basically they draft the itinerary. They get in touch with local suppliers. Then they come to us and they say, okay, this is basically what I've created. We check, of course, that is done in, let's say, in the right way with the right suppliers. And with that, then basically we put them online. And also in that sense, also the coordinator can have also an opportunity to earn some money, right? Because of the work that they did. So they enjoy the trip and at the same time, if they want.
So they not only go for free, but they also have a chance to earn some money if the itinerary sells.
If they create them themselves, yes.
Yeah. Okay. If they create themselves,
got it. Create themselves. Yep. So basically, if you go to Thailand on a itinerary created by our team, basically you travel for free, you enjoy Thailand. But you might say, I want to go to Cambodia. We don't have Cambodia. I will create it myself. So basically, we reward them for the work that they did. In that sense, it becomes kind of a marketplace. And now Italy was, of course, the first market where we started with this model. And now it's almost 50% of our sales go through basically this long tail product, which is fantastic because for us, let's say on the customer side, basically it increases a lot, it widens a lot the choice because I mentioned Svalbard, right? Maybe, or Cambodia, maybe our team will not put focus because maybe you have, 2-3 departures per year. They would say, okay, why I should focus on this? But let's say coordinator, if they want to do it, they can do it. And of course, for the customers, it's great because they really have a much, let's say, wider variety. It's great for the coordinators, as I mentioned before. I think it's also great for us because it also makes our operations very, very scalable because we went from having like 130 itineraries to almost 1,000 model in very scalable way. So that really very important change.
Okay. I love it. Now, okay. So I can see the flywheel building, and that's a very important concept that we're hearing many of the entrepreneurs that we have spoken to referencing the reference to the Jim Collins concept of flywheel. And I want to now move to why WeRoad. Like, if I were to say, I see this opportunity, let me start a company, and I were to try to compete with you, there must be some advantages that you saw in WeRoad that had already been established. I think that you, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just looking online. I see like you've done 2 rounds of financing. I'm seeing like about like a little over 35 million euro raised.
That is, yeah.
I don't know if you could.
It's correct.
And okay. And then there is a family office who was the lead in your B round.
H14, yeah.
Yes, H14. So you started obviously with something, but I just want to talk a little bit about competitive advantage because there's a market opportunity, and then we are the right person to pursue this, the right organization to pursue this market opportunity. Talk about that. Well, what do you see in WeRoad as being the company of all the other companies that might try to pursue it as being the right ones to do it, and how do you further build that competitive advantage?
Yeah, so I think there are 3 kind of competitive advantage compared to players who are around. So basically this kind of model where you do adventure travel with the strangers is not really new, completely new. It's something that was already there. I always make the comparison with Booking.com, right? Booking.com didn't invent hotels, didn't invent hotel reservation. They just moved an industry that was offline to, let's say, full online. And for those who were offline, it was impossible to, let's say, to catch up. So with the advantage that we had is that because we started in 2017, we started fully digital, direct to consumer, with customer acquisition engagement through social media. So I think that's one of our success was one of the co-founders, also our CMO, Fabio Bini, and I think it was great in creating let's say, a love brand, very inspirational brand. We did fantastic job on social media, especially Instagram. So if you look at the followers on Instagram in our segment, we are number one worldwide, also compared to players who have been around for many, many years. So that I think was really key in building the brand. So being inspirational and also leveraging a lot on social media, going directly to the customers instead of using travel agencies or traditional distributors. The other piece is I would say, is the technology. So compared to the players, so basically we build everything in-house to try to scale as, let's say, in a reliable and fast way. So also again, compared to traditional players who were a bit more on the manual work, we had this mindset, okay, looking at where we want to get, what we need to start working on now in order to make sure that the machine works and is capable to deal with the complexity of having different markets, different itineraries, different languages, different source of supply, different type of products, because now we are talking about long haul adventure travel, but we have the express, we have the weekends, we have the events, so it's quite complex machine. So that was, I think, was key. And the last one is what I mentioned before, is the community, right? So we have today around 3,000 coordinators around Europe. I would say creating a community takes time. So in terms of, and it is very fundamental piece. So what I mentioned before, the fact that we have this community of coordinators, of course, I could also have groups going with other coordinators. But if you look at the satisfaction score of the trips, the coordinators is always the ones scoring the highest. So that's why we make an investment in getting them, selecting them, engaging them. So for example, in October, like every year, we will have an event where everyone is coming. So that, of course, is the cost. But we really see value, and is not something to make it to replicate in a very easy way. And why, going to your question, why we think that why us and not someone else? And I think it's because of, I think our founder, Paul, I think is one of the most biggest expert on communities, I think maybe worldwide. Is, let's say, when he started, before WeRoad, he started when I was very, very young, still at the high school, he started basically the biggest student community in Italy, and he's still the biggest. So I think it's something that he really understands all the dynamics there, and a lot of the let's say on the student community, they brought them on. I'm not a community person, right? So I've been learning about WeRoad, right? So coming from WeCon, there is no community. It was something new to me, very fascinating. But I cannot say that I'm biggest. I mean, now I understand it, but I say I would have not been able to start it, let's say, in the same way, because there are some policies that you cannot really find on any tutorial, right? So there are really things that
there's no manual
feeling, from your understanding of human beings and behavior, that are not easy to copy.
Yes, I love it. So what I'm hearing is, you started digital and you got the strong social media capability. You've got the technology and scale. You've got this unique capacity to create community and already an existing community. So these are three advantages that you saw that WeRoad has. So let's shift then to investment. Let's talk about operationalizing before we go to investment. Operationalizing, what are some of the key decisions that you made in terms of who you hire, how you organize, what your incentive structure is, what your internal values are, what platforms you build, what technology you build, what processes, kind of all that, kind of aligning the organization around really creating the flywheel by leveraging community community social media technology. Just tell me, what are some of the key decisions? Because I imagine, because you've seen with Booking.com and before that you kind of identify what your advantages are, and then you build the company to excel at those. What are the things that you feel like you guys need to excel at?
Yeah. So I think some of the decisions that we have taken were maybe decisions that other competitors didn't take, because they go a bit against the scalability, but we really believe that they're very important for what we want to be. So if you look at our competitors, they mainly focus on one market, one language, one market, or they focus on many markets, maybe all across the globe, and they do everything in English. Our choice was really to go multi-country in the sense of like, okay, I'm going to replicate the model, at least in the 5 most important markets in Europe, even though I know that if I was doing everything in English, or if I was focusing only on Italy, things would have been much more scalable. Maybe we would have been already profitable at group level, but we would have missed a lot of opportunity because not localizing, not going into local language is also going to hinder the possibility that you have to be recognized as a credible local players and also to facilitate those connections that we want to, let's say, to create. So we went through some headache, but for us it was important because that was kind of non-negotiable, right? So we really want to be, if you come to our website in France, WeRoad.fr, we want to have the feeling that basically you're dealing with a French player, that when you speak to our staff, the people based in Paris who speak the same language, they understand what they're doing, that the coordinators are the community is created and nurtured in France by French people, that we have a localized marketing with a French person because we want to be relevant, because when we speak to our customers, they really need to have the feeling that we are there, right? Of course, now with AI, you can just scale and multiply, or let's say your content, but we are really a human.
A clarification question. So just following up on the example of the French market, are your coordinators French? Are your visitors or your whoever you call your customers, are they French, or are they from Germany going to France?
They are from France. So when I say Italy, because it's in terms of destinations, we work across the globe. As I said, we have like 1,000 itineraries. We cover all the globe. Maybe there are still a few countries, maybe where it is not safe to travel to. But overall, you can go everywhere with WeRoad. When I mention the markets, we are talking about source markets. So France is about French people traveling with a French coordinator across the globe.
I didn't understand that. I think that is a radical differentiation from travel, because most travel organizations are about taking someone from one country and exposing you to another country. But here, because you're providing experience and community, it can be. That is fascinating. I didn't pick up on that until just now. That's very interesting. So what are the implications then for have you already covered some of it a bit, in terms of, let's just say, people, organizational structure, technology, operations, KPIs, metrics, like what is different that you do given that is your focus, as opposed to booking.com, I assume, was like more people from other countries visiting different countries?
Yeah, so what is important also for us with the fact that we have also teams in, say, 6 different offices, because we also have one in Switzerland for operational staff, is really to make sure that we always hire people who we think are culture fit, who we think but basically can also bring that and keep alive the culture in that office. Because I also, in my experience from WeRoad.com, it's very difficult when you have remote offices, maybe not big offices, and basically you start creating also your own culture. This is not what we want. With the culture that we want something that is going to be reflected on externally. So that for us is really the most important piece when we hire people. It's not really that important, the experience. Of course, for some roles, you need to have some capabilities. I'm hiring a tech guy. I need to make sure that they can do some coding. Of course, now with AI, is not maybe even that is not super relevant, but let's say that they have the right, spirits, that they are basically in line with our guiding principle. And basically everything in terms of guiding principle go around, I think, four main pillars that we have. The first one is ambition. So we really want to have people who are not just, let's say, doing the job. I mean, as a company, we're very ambitious, and we have people who always stretch themselves, even if maybe at the end they don't make the goal, they don't make what they were going for, but we really want to have someone who is really trying to go for the move. Another important is about, let's say, agility. So we are very, let's say, young, dynamic company. Things change, and it's the beauty of working let's say, in a company like WeRoad, because maybe one day we're going in another direction, the other day we go in another direction, and you need to be fine with that. You need to, or maybe not only to be fine, you need to really enjoy that let's say that environment. There are situations where maybe you're working on a project, but then maybe because of a priority for our customers is better that you just drop what you're doing and start working on something else. So you need to be fine with that environment. Otherwise, if you are kind of a corporate-like guy, you are going to, that is very, very important for us. Third one is ownership. So we want people who really take responsibility for what they're doing. People who get things done, even if things are not perfect. So also people who are able to make the right call on what is good enough. I mean, we don't have time for perfection. So we really need to make a lot of things good enough, and then we will start, let's say, working to make them better when we see that basically there is a need to get there. And I think that the fourth point that for us is very important is the community part. So we really want to have people who are, ideally they are coordinators. So today we have like, I think 1/3 of our workforce they are also coordinators. But I say, even if you're not a coordinator, we want to have people who really have the curiosity to leave the community, who go to the events that we create, to go to the trips that they really enjoy it, as, let's say, in the same way the others are doing. Also to be able to understand basically how we should prioritize our work for, I would say, the community of coordinators, but also the community of. So you also need to have that kind of human side. It's very key.
Love it. Love it. Okay. The last thing I just want to just share your thoughts on is investment. So you kind of like identify what your advantages are, but how do you suggest an entrepreneur make decisions about where to get capital and where to invest capital? Because certainly there are probably many more opportunities for you to invest either external capital or any profit that you have into the business. How do you think about where to invest?
Yeah, so in terms of where to invest, I think we made at the moment, let's say, the choice not to look into M&A or acquisition, because we really want to go on with our model. We really want to use any resource that we have to prove that basically our model can work in, let's say, in every market, rather than acquiring someone to do it on our behalf. Also because I think we have kind of a unique character.
A unique model. Yeah.
Unique model. So it's also very difficult to find a company that is going to add
that does that.
value, and also to have a culture fit with us. In terms of funds, I think it's always very important to understand why you're raising money and what you're going to do it with that. Because I think there are many companies, founders or CEO, I think, who do rounds, because I think that's also for their kind of ego, right? Or when you have the press release and they say, okay, we raised this money at this evaluation, we are towards the unicorn, but at the end, it's really everything is on paper. So if you cash out, then you're fantastic, great, you can celebrate. But as long as it's on paper, who cares, right? So you really need to think why, because it's really a very time-consuming process, right? I mean, anyone who's done it knows that basically it's a distraction from the business. It really make basically other things slow down. Can be disappointing, because of course there are also many investors or potential investors who look into you not because maybe they are really interested in you, but they just want to get information. They just want to know a bit more about the segment. And at the beginning, it's very difficult to understand who is really interested or is just fishing for, let's say, for information. So to really have a clear understand what you're going to do with the money. If you can avoid doing it, of course, always better to avoid it, just not to have a distraction. And then, of course, to pick the right fund. So let's say, Besides the money, of course, that is very important, and the evaluation, what is this investor is going to bring to me in terms of advising me, opening
Smart money.
smart money, so opening new doors, how the governance is going to be. I mean, I'm going to have them on my shoulder every single day, or still be free to work? Do I feel, let's say, personal connection with them? That I think are aspects that are very important.
Yeah, I'm thinking that there's from these interviews we've been doing, I think there's this idea of, there's product market fit, but I think there also is investor company fit. And sometimes entrepreneurs just sort of like look for capital wherever, but don't think about whether that is really a good fit for the company or not frequently enough. Excellent. It's amazing. I have so many other questions for you. Let me just, but we're reaching the top of our time with you. Let me just ask you, where is WeRoad going? What's the vision for the company?
So we basically we want to create, to be the platform to go for people who want to have fantastic experiences, whether that is on the other side of the world or around the corner, and at the same time making new friends, making new connections. So in order to make that happen, besides and beyond the long haul trips, as I mentioned before, we started with the express, so shorter trips. Then we added the weekends, so now you can also have a WeRoad experience for 2 days. And now we also released in April our app, the We Meet app, that is really focusing on events, right? So even if you're not traveling, you don't have time, you don't have the money, or you don't feel comfortable to go for the first time on the other side of the world with strangers, you can have a kind of WeRoad experience in your city. Either it's like yoga, running, dinner with strangers.
Low risk.
That is really what we are going for in terms of ambition, and also on geographies. We want to have, we want to be a global player. Of course, it will take time. So that's why now we're focusing only on Europe, because it's big enough. We still have a lot of things to do here. So we don't want to stretch ourselves to thin, but definitely we have the goal of going beyond Europe, maybe US first, and other region. But it's a step that we will take when we feel we will feel comfortable with that. In terms of the question that you have asked on investor, I think in smart money, I think that if we are going to do another round, will be because we really want to go, for example, to the US or outside Europe, and really like to have then in our cap table someone who can open the doors, who can bring the knowledge that we miss to go faster there.
To go this, smart, which goes along with your whole kind of like local strategy, right? Building local coordinators, demand, and investors, almost like a localized ecosystem. Fascinating. Thank you so much. I have learned so much. Our listeners will learn so much from you, and I hope and I'm sure that many of them will also look at you as being customers or investors or coordinators. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for taking the time to share with us. It was great talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Strategy at Scale. Thank you to our guest, Andrea D'Amico, our producer, Nazanin Homayoun Jam, our editor, James Pierce, and the rest of the team at Outthinker and Scaling Up. If you like what you heard, please follow, download, and subscribe. I'm your host, Kayan Krippendorf. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time with another episode of Strategy at Scale.